Welcome back to Chatooine, everyone. I'm Star Wars Only, joined with Lunga and Palpamemes. We're here to do the best Star Wars show, best Star Wars podcast out there. And we have a lot of really big news that came out just yesterday, right in time for Thanksgiving. So today we're going to be discussing that, Dave Filoni's promotion over there at Lucasfilm. If you guys are watching on the Star Wars Only channel, please watch on the Chatooine channel. We're going to be leaving soon off of Star Wars Only. If you're watching this live, please leave a like. Be active in the comment section that we have, and let's kind of get the show on the road. We got a lot of big Lucasfilm news to cover, and the biggest one is Dave Filoni. He has received a very big production upgrade over there at Lucasfilm, and I'm going to quote. The article was by Variety, but I'm going to use what was it? Vanity Fair, but I'm going to use Variety because they kind of have a condensed article. So I'm just going to read there to start this off. It says, Dave Filoni, who has overseen Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Rebels, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and is the master of all things in a galaxy far, far away, now has a new role at Lucasfilm, Chief Creative Officer. He still holds the title of Executive Vice President, which he received in 2020. Filoni announced his Chief Creative Officer title in an interview with Vanity Fair on Tuesday. He was already executive producer of all live-action Star Wars shows on Disney Plus and had been tapped to direct a film weaving together all of the TV storylines, but he will now take a more involved role with the future of Star Wars. Dave Filoni says, in the past, in a lot of projects I would be brought into, I would see it after it had already been developed in a good ways. In this new role, it's opened up to basically everything that's going on. When we're planning the future of what we're doing now, I'm involved at the inception phase. I'm not telling people what to do, he added, but I do feel I'm trying to help them tell the best story that they want to tell. I need to help across the galaxy here, like part of the Jedi Council. And it kind of goes on with more stuff that we'll cover up here in a second. But let's just kind of start off initially of what is your initial reactions to all this? Moving myself first because I'm always first, Lunga. My initial reaction to this is good. I think this is, first of all, this is huge. This is something the fans have been asking for a very long time from Dave Filoni. And I think the online reactions from the fandom is going to be a big topic and narrative going forward with this change. Mainly on like TikTok and Instagram, I've seen a lot of people be like, the war is over. The war with Kathleen Kennedy is over. We've won. Dave Filoni is now in charge of Lucasfilm. And that's not the case at all. The Vanity Fair article specifically says that Kathleen Kennedy is still running the overall show. And when they talk about
she hired him, she gave him the promotion.
She's the reason he was moved up. Like, if you want to give so much props to Dave Filoni, you have to give props to Kathleen Kennedy for making this decision. If you love this move, you have to love what Kathleen Kennedy did inherently because that is her choice. This is her decision. This is her company. So I like that they're putting someone in this creative capacity, in this kind of role of him saying, I'm helping plan the future of Star Wars over the next 10 years, especially after 2026. We're going to see a new generation of Star Wars. And this is going to be really a big test for Lucasfilm. And it's responsible and smart of them to bring someone in like a Dave Filoni and say, help us plan these next 3 to 4 movies. Help us plan these next 5 shows. Help us plan on how these all weave in together, kind of like he was already doing with the Mandoverse. And now we have that in a more official capacity. So I'm happy with the news of it. I'm happy with the decision of putting someone. We'll get into who that is as it being Dave Filoni a little bit later into the show as that topic kind of progresses. But what is your initial reaction to this, Longa? What was your initial reaction to the news yesterday that Dave Filoni is now the Chief Creative Officer at Lucasfilm?
First of all, it's the first reaction is about time. I made a video a while ago. It was Mando season 1. It was right after Deborah Chow's first episode. Which episode was it that she did in season
1? She did the chapter 5, I believe, where she had the one where Mando actually goes back to like save Grogu and he turns the child over and everything like that.
Yeah. So when she broke out, everyone was like praising Deborah Chow. Oh my God, she's great. Mm-hmm. And in that video, I said back then, I go, we're gonna what's should happen, or I believe what going to happen is Favreau is going to take over for Kathleen Kennedy, which still not happening. He's going to become president of Lucasfilm, and Filoni is going to be a Feige-like creative director, the big picture guy, right? The whiteboard, the planning of the phases, if you will, or whatever, or you know how it's going to go. And so this happening for me, it is. I'm not quite the meme of praising the Jesus Filoni in the sky. I have my reservations about certain things he does here and there. Not as bad as yours, but I do.
No.
But it's needed, and for better or for worse, for people who want to hate on him or whatever, or people who idolize him far too much, whatever the case may be. This is not him writing every script. And at the end of the day, if there's anybody at Lucasfilm who knows more about Star Wars from George Lucas on, it's Dave Filoni. You don't have to like the stuff he's made. His knowledge on the lore and the history and everything that makes Star Wars, he is the most knowledgeable and passionate person there. So this is not this is a very good sign for me and a positive direction.
Palpable News, what are your thoughts on yesterday's news?
My initial reaction was, who is this replacing in this CCO role? And it turns out, after doing some research, that this is appearing to be a new role. And so my mind immediately went to, okay, so was Kathleen Kennedy filling this non-existent role, though? And that turns out to be true. So for me, Kathleen Kennedy having less creative input is 2 thumbs up for me. I love Kathleen Kennedy as a producer. Anyone who's grown up, anyone who's alive today can not say she's a bad producer. She's a phenomenal producer, right? I have not been happy with Lucasfilm under her guidance, but if this allows her to go back to where she's actually good at, and it allows Dave Filoni, who I think I'm more sided with Lunga on my views on him. I like a lot of the stuff he's made, and I've disliked a lot of the stuff he's also made. I think Dave Filoni's strengths are ideas, and I think his weakness is writing. I think Ahsoka needed a writing room. I love the ideas for Ahsoka, but the execution was kind of all over the place, and that's very consistent for Dave Filoni. As you guys said, the man's not going to be writing a script. All right, he's not writing scripts for Lucasfilm, okay? But having him as a guidance, I'm very much okay with that. I would have been okay with virtually anyone because it was clear Lucasfilm needed this. And so it being Dave Filoni, it makes sense. The fans have been saying for years, and I think it's silly, that Dave Filoni needs to be running Lucasfilm. Do you guys like his stories or not? Because if you like his stories, him running Lucasfilm is not going to allow him to make stories. Whereas this role gives him basically the highest level of having a creative vision with Star Wars. So for me, as someone who's kind of in the middle with Filoni, I don't really praise him, but I don't fathomably hate him and think he's the worst thing ever. I think he's got really good ideas. And I think at the very, very least of all this, this means change is coming for Lucasfilm. And I'm very happy with that. It's clearly been needed. That said, we have a lot of people saying that Star Wars is going to be saved by him. Let's take a few steps back, okay? Let's relax a little bit. Star Wars, Lucasfilm has more problems than one man can fix, okay? So,
well,
while I do think
so, I mean,
while I do think this is a great step in the right direction, I am happy with it. We need to hit the brakes a little bit and act like everything is fine, because it's not. And I've seen a lot of reels on Instagram and stuff of people just praising this and saying it's saved. You know, the war is over. Guys, it's going to take some time for this to actually be in effect and for us to see the results of it. But my consensus to wrap this up is I'm happy, and it shows that change is coming for Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm knows change is needed. And I cannot wait to see if this goes well or bad. It's certainly going to be interesting.
It's definitely the future of Star Wars at the moment. I mean, this is
everything.
A big.
He said it himself.
Yeah, and so let's continue to read from the article, because it does talk about what's coming next and what we can kind of expect, at least from Star Wars right now. One of the good things that I think the four of us, even though Goldman isn't here for the show, is they did say, Lucasfilm officials said to Vanity Fair that all the other Star Wars projects that were announced at Celebration earlier this year, I mean, it was just this spring in May, are still on the books. So I know we kind of had a fear about like James Mangold's film not still happening because, oh, well, Dial of Destiny, the Indiana Jones film, wasn't all that great and everything like that. He still seems to be on it. But this article from Variety covering what they said in Vanity Fair says Star Wars is slowly planning a grand return to the big screen. The franchise has several more TV series in the works too. Up next is Skeleton Crew, a coming of age story created by John Watts and Christopher Ford. The Acolyte, a thriller helmed by Leslie Headland set in a distant past. And season 2 of Tony Gilroy's Andor. On the big screen, there are films in the works by James Mangold, Taika Waititi, Sean Levi, and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. Filoni is also exploring a second season of Ahsoka, which starred Rosario Dawson as the live-action grown-up version of Jedi Ahsoka Tano. And Filoni talks about his influence in his role. He says, to truly help filmmakers, it was really important to me to experience it firsthand. I can also lend a perspective on the challenge that telling these stories will present. I feel more capable of actually being helpful outside of just saying, well, Jedi are like this and Sith are like this. Filoni has been with the Star Wars universe, since directing the Clone Wars movie in 2008 and has worked very closely with creator George Lucas for years. Kathleen Kennedy will serve as president of Lucasfilm and Carrie Beck as head of development. Filoni weighs in on narrative level while Kennedy oversees Lucasfilm and Beck brings in other filmmakers into the fold. Literally hours now of Star Wars storytelling I have done, Filoni says, before pausing to rethink his syntax. See, I've even phrased that like Yoda, which I guess was kind of cute. It does reiterate what we've kind of been saying so far of like, he's here for the narrative stuff. And I do think that is a good choice of bringing someone like him in. Like I said, in a little bit, we'll talk about like his work in Star Wars and everything and what that means. But what's so shocking to me in a lot of ways is that he's already been so involved with Star Wars over the past 10 years at this point. And it is an odd thing for me for people to be like, oh, I don't like Disney Star Wars, but I love Dave Filoni. It's like, okay, well, most of his work has come out under Disney Star Wars. So it is a weird dilemma I'm seeing of people being like, oh, I love Filoni, but I don't love Rebels, or I don't love Resistance. I don't love Bad Batch. And it's like, oh, okay, well, there's a guy behind that named Filoni, like and we'll get into his projects in a little bit because I do think that is something important. But when it comes to the future of Star Wars, when it comes to the upcoming projects and everything, I think it's safe to assume projects like Andor, Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, Dave probably won't have any influence, if at all. I mean, he was clearly involved with the projects, probably as like an executive producer behind the scenes and everything, but he wasn't at the initial starting phase of everything like his new role is now going to have him do. So he's going to be very involved with all of Star Wars going forward. And it does seem like he's become the Kevin Feige of Star Wars and Lucasfilm. Do you guys feel that way about him? Do you guys feel like we have given him that trust to helm the next 10 years of Star Wars? Because that's what this is. This is the next 10 years of Star Wars, and it's going to have a lot more Dave Filoni on it than it ever has. Do you guys feel like that he's taking that Kevin Feige spot now?
Yeah. That's what it is. I don't like. I mean, and this isn't even the first one, right? Because was it last year or whatever? He got that.
It was
creative director.
Creative executive.
Yeah. Which was like no one even announced. It was just changed on the website.
Yeah,
no one even noticed it. Yeah. And so that's been there, right? This is just a step up. And anytime you hear chief creative officer, that is a Feige role. That is a Feige role. Before he got that whole other weird thing where he's like pretty much owned the MCU. It was like no one could touch Marvel. It was him, period, at the end. And he only, went right up ahead to Disney. That was it. But yeah, this is exactly what it is. It's a Feige role. And my question is this: for the naysayers, right? I'm not talking about people who are like conservatively worried. Like all three of us have some conservative worries. That's fine. I mean, you're going anyone that comes in, especially with a
Star Wars is doomed.
Right. But the people, that Star Wars is doomed. Oh, fuck this, blah, 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 blah. People who say things like Kathleen Kennedy is still going to be. It's like, okay, you don't give someone this kind of promotion with Kathleen Kennedy still going to be controlling everything. And you get what I mean by controlling. I'm talking about creatively, right? That guys, when we say
just having the input, right?
Creative. Now, let's not be naive here. I don't care who is president of Lucasfilm. they're going to have some input. Okay, they're going to still have meetings with.
No, I
Filoni,
meant
and
as
it's
much.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wasn't saying what you. I'm just saying in general. So leave the Kathleen Kennedy shit alone. Okay, 'cause she's good, guys. She's getting old. She's going to be leaving. It's going to happen eventually. Okay, it's not going to be forever. But to give someone like this, someone who she's talked about publicly many times about what he knows and how she's deferred to him, and the free reign she's given him and Favreau on Mandalorian and stuff like that. Okay,
True.
and Ahsoka. Okay, she trusts him. Okay, and she realized she might have her input. She might try to put some stuff in, but she trusts him. Other than that, my biggest question for the naysayers is, if not him, who?
I love
Don't tell me
that
George
question.
Lucas either. Don't tell me
But I
fucking
love
George
that
Lucas.
question because that's I would say I'm a naysayer in this situation. Just because of Dave Filoni, and like I said, we'll get into kind of his works and my thoughts of him as a influence on Star Wars and what that's going to mean going forward later on into our topics. But that is a great rebuttal to a lot of the naysayers and people like me who are like, oh, I like this role and I want someone to do it, but why does it have to be Dave Filoni? The question is, okay, well then who? You could say Jon Favreau, but he's only been involved, like that train of Jon Favreau, I think kind of has gone away at this point because his influence in Star Wars
He's
is really
just a
diminished.
fan. He keeps deferring to Filoni about stuff. He
But-
keeps
but- well,
asking Filoni about stuff.
Well, yes,
So
but
let's
that's
keep that in
because
mind.
they were forced to work together. And one thing I think now, looking back at like Mandalorian,
Hold on. Did you just use the word forced to work?
Okay,
Where
yes,
did that come from? Forced to
well,
work
because
together?
Kathleen Kennedy literally said, yes, if you want to do this Mandalorian series, great, but you have to do it with Dave Filoni. And John was like, okay, of course. Like, I love Dave. Like that's she's not forcing his hand, but that's pretty clear sign of her being like, hey, like I want this guy to be actively involved. You guys have worked with each other before in the past. Like this is kind of my requirement because she wanted to put Dave in a position like this. And Jon Favreau was the perfect guy to mentor him for the live action stuff. But I have noticed with Dave and when he was working with John, when John started out The Mandalorian, all the credit went to him. Season 2 came out, we started introducing a lot of stuff that Dave Filoni had worked on in the past. Season 3, not more so, but it still continued that story that we integrated from Dave Filoni's stories in the past. And The Mandalorian has taken a significant drop off. The Book of Boba Fett helped with that. So what I'm saying with John and Dave is that at the time when Mandalorian was coming out and we knew we were going to get a Book of Boba Fett and a Rangers of the New Republic and an Ahsoka series and all that, the thought process was, oh, John is building this kind of creative world where everything's connecting and this is really exciting. It turns out, looking back, that it's really just Dave Filoni doing a lot of this. And that's where, like, what you were saying of who could it be? At the time, it could have been, and I still think part of it should have been Jon Favreau. He's a lot more experienced than Dave Filoni. He has a lot more writing, directing, producing experience. Like, everything Dave Filoni has done has pretty much been inside Star Wars, except for animation, what he did with, like, Avatar and everything. But John has experience.
Let Favreau. If you, I mean, again, I still say president is his future role, okay? Because he's an executive. He's someone who can run shit, okay?
Yeah.
But if he's going to stay on the creative side, right, and not be president, let him be the Russo brothers. Let him direct and write and be a part of your Endgame and Infinity War. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where his strength is at.
But it doesn't seem like that's the role that Favreau has been taking of late. But I do like getting back to who, if not Dave Filoni. Palp Memes, do you know anybody else that you think could even qualify? Like, there's, I don't know, Tony Gilroy, Rick Famuyiwa, anybody like that cross your mind?
Tony Gilroy, the guy is not even a huge fan, even though he made the greatest Star Wars show.
I was about to say, you can't say that without, Andor and Rogue One, what he did with that.
I know my stuff.
And before you even get into it, Palp Memes, I do want to clarify this because we all try to say that. Oh, not even a big fan. They don't have to be a fan. They just have to respect the IP.
Absolutely.
That's the important thing.
100%.
They don't have to be a fan, right? They don't have to be a fan. If they respect the IP, that means they're going to ask questions. They're going to defer to people who know more. They're going to do their research. That's what respecting means. You don't have to be Pablo Hidalgo, Central and knows that has the repository of every information, or Dave Filoni. As long as you respect it and you talk to the people who know and researched it, that's all that matters.
Well, that's where I think Dave Filoni will really come in handy because we know Lucasfilm had that story group and all that. And I mean, given God bless all the things that happened with the trilogy and stuff, I kind of wonder like what was going on with that story group. Were they even involved like we think, or like we were told? As for who, I like the idea of Jon Favreau, but I think I think Dave Filoni, in terms of the current Lucasfilm, right? Dave Filoni would be the guy to make this work with what we have right now. Let me think here. The question is, will his involvement stay? And what I mean by that is, let's say he is working in the writer's room with the new writer for this new movie, right? We know how much meddling is done with these movies and have been in reshoots. Directors changed after they've already filmed the film. Solo, a Star Wars story, and Rogue One. So my biggest question is, are Lucasfilm and Disney actually going to let these creators create? Because if you're going to bring Dave Filoni in and let him kind of guide these writers, guide these directors, help, kind of input his way of making it, more like Star Wars or however you want to explain it, is that going to be fully allowed? Right? Because if they start doing what they've done the past 10 years with the movies, where they don't let a vision come to light from the group of people that were supposed to have the vision, then this role is virtually pointless. And that's kind of my big worry right now is like, yes, it's great that we have this, but how is it going to actually be impactful in the end? But to answer your first question, yes, this is basically Kevin Feige. And question number 2, I don't know anyone else really in the realm of Lucasfilm right now that would want to take or should take this role other than Dave Filoni.
Well, and I did like what you said about, what does this mean for like the other filmmakers and everything? And will Disney and Lucasfilm kind of let these creatives work? It seems like for Dave Filoni's perspective, he will. But then again, this is also another hand in the pot. This is now another person who has even more authority, more power. If Dave Filoni says, I don't like this guy or what he's doing,
well,
he now has the power to.
If Disney keeps treating these movies the same way they've treated the sequel trilogy, Solo and Rogue One, right?
But hang on. The Solo, though, was not a Disney thing. Solo was Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence
Kasdan. I'm sorry, Lucasfilm, Disney, the meddling, the executives.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying is like now he's an executive. So now you have someone else who's meddling even more because he's not just an executive. Now he's kind of like a story writer as well with a lot of these projects. He's there from inception to the end now. He's involved in everything. So he does have a lot more authority, and I think it's going to result in a little bit more meddling, more hands in the pot. Now, this could mean, at least for Disney and, let's say, Lucasfilm executives like Carrie Beck, Michelle Rejwan, Kathleen Kennedy, these people who have a lot of influence and can pull the plug on some projects and everything. There's another guy who does a lot of the live-action production stuff that works with Kathleen Kennedy. I can't remember his name, but he's another executive who's actively involved in all these things. I do wonder now if this means that Kathleen, Michelle Rejwan, Carrie Beck, and all the other executives at Lucasfilm in the higher up positions are going to have a lot more trust and faith in these projects, because I think that's been the biggest thing with a lot of modern day Lucasfilm stuff is kind of undermining these creators because they don't have the confidence in them that
I think
they want.
I think it's possible that they don't want to be involved with this anymore. Right. I don't know a whole lot about Rejwan's role at Lucasfilm, I will admit, but I know a lot about Kathleen Kennedy's, it's pretty public. And with the roles that Kathleen Kennedy has, she shouldn't want to be involved with the story group and stuff. Obviously, yes, she's going to have to be the one to greenlight this from her end.
She has to be involved.
Right. But to the extent that she was, right, and has been, that's how I took this, as her being like, yeah, I've been in this position that didn't exist. Dave, you're taking over for this, right? That's how I took that.
Push back against that. I don't think she is losing a status in any way, and I don't think she was filling this role that Dave Filoni is now doing. I think that role has just always been.
Someone had to.
No, it's a mixture.
Yeah,
it's a mixture. You said you didn't know. Yeah, there was. Again, it depends. Rejwan, okay, because I did a video on this too, and we've talked about it before in the past.
Yeah,
she was more on the movie side though. It wasn't the TV side as much.
Yeah, because she is the reason Patty Jenkins in that movie Rogue Squadron,
right,
specifically was like, no, this is not working out.
Exactly. So here's the thing, and I'm not sure. There's probably another executive on the movie side So it was Kathleen Kennedy at the helm, right? That had her ideas, and then she had these executives like Rejwan with the movies and whoever was doing it on the TV side that were filling that role. Okay, together. those three people, Kathleen Kennedy, Rejwan, and whoever's on the TV side, most likely by committee, filled that role to try to head creative. Okay, and that I think is what's being filled here. Okay, and
I
again,
can see that.
it's not Kathleen losing anything. We don't want to look at it that way either. It's she shouldn't have been doing it in the first place.
Well, that's what I'm
not
saying.
an executive's
She can
role.
still come back and be like, "Hey, nope, I'm changing this." She obviously
Right.
has that authority. I'm not saying she's losing that. I'm saying she
Right.
doesn't want to deal with that as much anymore, right? So
and
that's
she
what I'm
shouldn't
hoping.
and shouldn't have
And
been.
she should.
Well, yeah, and I don't
Exactly.
even think it's her dealing with it as much anymore as a situation. I think, like Lunga was talking about, of all these executives, when you look at a lot of these Star Wars projects and do what people like me have done and constantly keep up with behind the scenes stuff, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi had different directors, different writers, and different producers. Not entirely, but Michelle Rejwan only did The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker because she came from Bad Robot with J.J. Abrams. And you did not, you had Rick, I think his name is Rick Bergman, who worked with Ryan Johnson. He works on a lot of Ryan Johnson films, if not all of them. They come as a pair. So he was a producer of The Last Jedi. You had different producers for Rogue One. You had different producers for Solo Star Wars Story. Even Josh Trank, his Boba Fett film, there was a producer from the Fantastic Four movies or whatever that was a producer, an executive producer over there at Lucasfilm, very high up. And he went to Kathleen Kennedy and said, "Hey, it's him or me. I cannot work with this guy." And she said, "Okay, well, I'm keeping this executive producer on because he's in the company as a consultant and you're just a director." So I think what this is doing is minimizing the amount of people that are involved with these projects. Instead of having two producers on Rogue Squadron and then two producers on Taika Waititi's film, and neither, what do they say? Neither the two shall meet or anything like that. Like, these guys don't cross-examine their work or talk to each other. I think that is now the role that Dave Filoni is taking in of like, no.
Back
you want
to
know
where Lucasfilm was back in the day before Disney. It was very compact, right? It was compartmentalized, right?
Yes.
It was very together in this room. They created the vision.
Yeah, but it
then
was
they would
all
go from
Lucas,
there.
100% Lucas. Period. It was
Yeah.
his word was
So
for everything.
I do want to take. Oh, go ahead, Lunga.
Yeah, I was just
going
gonna just interject with that part, because again, I know we keep bringing up the Marvel comparison because it's a reason. I mean, they're both under Disney, right? And structures are the same, and you could see parallels. Okay, one of the biggest things we saw in the articles that have been coming out was what Marvel's been suffering from is they haven't had a showrunner for their TV shows, right? They just let the directors and the writers just do what they want, and there was no cohesiveness, right? Which is what our biggest issue with Star Wars is. Okay, and if you think when we go back to those movies, what's the biggest complaint we had, right? You bring JJ in, okay, great director, people love JJ, we know he can do stuff. He self-admittedly, I know how to start things, I don't finish them, and he's like, "Oh, here we go, guys," and he hands it off, right? There's no showrunner. No showrunner, just JJ make a movie, hand the baton to the next guy, and then they'll figure it out. And then you get Ryan Johnson, who, again, gotta get arguing with people all the fucking time with this. They think I hate Ryan Johnson as a person. I don't.
Here we go.
He's a good director. Okay? He is a good director. And he has a great eye. That's why The Last Jedi is such a beautiful looking movie.
Well, he had a great cinematographer with him too, but yeah.
Yeah, but again,
Director
an
does
eye.
a lot
You
of
still
work
need to.
too. Yeah.
He frames the shots, man. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
And he's deep in
I'm
the
being
editing room,
facetious.
right? Okay. Right. Okay, but writing and picking up a storyline that was already started and cherry picking what you like and throwing out what you didn't and then making your own story out of it that was supposed to be cohesive is not that doesn't work, and that doesn't happen with a showrunner. Okay, and then you get to the third movie. What do we do? We get rid of Chris Terrio. We get bring JJ back. I don't know how to do this. Okay, and just throw it all together because there was nobody
to make this. You have a year from scratch to make this.
Yeah,
there was nobody sitting in the conference room with the fucking whiteboard. Okay,
it's like, who do you blame? I mean,
so again, now sink or swim. It's gonna fall on Filoni, right? So we'll see what comes out of it. But I would rather have movies I'm not happy with but are still cohesive than have horrendous fucking movies.
That is exactly where my consensus was with this. Yeah. Was that at the very, very least, if this goes through and he is allowed to do what his role is supposed to do, right? And that's what we talked about earlier with the meddling and stuff. at the very least, we'll have a creative vision and a creative mind that leads the future of Star Wars.
And
And
that's
they
the
have
biggest
needed that
benefit to
from
this.
the very beginning. And it's
Yeah.
about damn time they realize, you know what? Maybe we need some help with this. And
Yeah.
Dave might just be the guy to do that. It could be a complete train wreck, right? For reasons X, Y, and Z. But at the very least, this gives me, I've been, you know, very doom and gloom, Lunga, when it comes to Lucasfilm and the future of Star Wars. And I self-admit that. But I have my reasons to feel that way, right? Maybe I'm exaggerating sometimes. Maybe I'm hyperbole and stuff. Sure. But I would be lying if I didn't say, okay, this gives me some sense of, okay, perhaps the train could get back on the track. They also put that new lady up in that new position. I think, was it Lady or
Well, no. But hey, I do want to talk about that.
Are we going to talk about that? Okay.
Lucasfilm,
Okay.
of
Yeah.
how-
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Yeah.
What was that even
Hey, you
referencing? Who went too
gotta
far?
force change. All right.
A big thing that was, I think, updated with this is the inner workings and the look that we have at the structure of Lucasfilm and how Dave might change it. Certain things are staying the same. Kathleen Kennedy is still Lucasfilm President, still in charge of Dave and everyone underneath her, and she still runs the ship. She's the captain of the ship. But what Palpatine was just referring to was this lady named Carrie Beck. Now, Carrie Beck is since 2013, she came in as a Lucasfilm Story Group person, and she's been involved with all the animation stuff. So she is one of the big influences on Rebels. She's a big influence on what is it called? Forces of Destiny. That was her
Yes.
baby, and then Resistance. So not the best track record for a lot of Star Wars fans, in my opinion, but still, she had a big influence on these animated shows that have come out.
The
and
Mandalorian was huge. Yeah.
she didn't work on The
Co-executive-
Mandalorian.
Co-executive producer and co-producer of The Mandalorian. So 17 episodes of them. I'm not sure exactly what episodes.
That's got to be. It's
Um,
got to be all of them at that point, then, because
It's got to be. Yeah, here it says 25. Yeah. So Mandalorian as well. Looks like she's getting her hands in. Ahsoka as well. She was the executive producer for
anything
Ahsoka.
that Dave does, she's there. She's Dave
Essentially,
Filoni's, like,
yeah.
producer pretty much. But the thing with that is, this is the lady right here, Carrie Beck. One of the things that this article mentioned is that she is the person who's bringing in all the filmmakers. So it seems like anyone like Patty Jenkins, Taika Waititi, James Mangold, that lady who's directing the Rey movie, Charmin Chenoy and everything, those are coming from Carrie Beck. She is doing that role. So it's kind of interesting to look at this new Lucasfilm structure of, we have someone who's approving everything, funding everything, making sure everything flows and works, and Kathleen Kennedy. We have someone who is planning and helping out with the storytelling of all these projects, and then we have someone who's hiring and bringing on all the creatives and the producers with Carrie Beck. Do you guys think this is a good change for Lucasfilm in the structure, or do you think it's more of the same? Because honestly, I don't feel like this is going to be a drastic difference. It seems like everyone's staying in their same position, and Dave is just going to be involved a little bit more.
I think, okay, yes, Carrie Beck is still going to be hired, right? Dave isn't going to be out there interviewing directors and producers and stuff like that. He'll be in the room. Okay, I'm sure he'll be in the room when the names come up. I'm sure he might even be in the interview room with Carrie. You know what I mean? So he'll be part of it, but she will have the final say on, most likely, on those hirings. Okay. But again, is that a problem? I mean, not really, because let's think about the names they have hired. These haven't been horrible names, right?
They haven't
been
but
horrible.
but like,
They've
come
been
on,
good names.
with some of them,
What's been the problem? No direction. It wasn't
Yes.
the names.
But
It
let's
was
look
in
at
no
Patty,
direction.
hang on, look at some of these names though. Patty Jenkins, Charmin Chenoy, and everything. She doesn't have a really good track record. Patty Jenkins, she did Wonder Woman, but she doesn't have the best track record of recent either. You know, like,
What about
some of
TV?
these-
Does she do the Does she do the TV too?
Yes,
Or
yes,
who?
she's been
Charmin?
influential
Carrie
with the
Beck.
TV stuff.
Okay. Well, what about Rick Fumiyawa? What about Deborah Chow? What about Bryce Dallas Howard? Come on.
I don't think that was all her though. I think a lot of that was Jon Favreau, the way they
I
talked
just
about it.
asked. Was she the one who's doing the hiring for the TV?
Oh yeah, yes, but when you said TV, I mean, I'm sorry, I was still thinking mostly
Yeah.
animation on her end.
I doubt Favreau was hiring the directors. He may give names, he may give a list. This is what I'd like, but I'm pretty sure it was not John.
He's
Favreau.
not making the phone calls. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he's not hiring. He's not hiring and interviewing the directors and the.
So is she
and
basically like my boy
producers.
Rick from the old prequel days? Is it McCullen?
Rick don't you ever fucking say my boy Rick and then not get his last name right. All right, that is Rick goddamn
his last-
McCollum. It's
I
Rick
said
McCollum.
that.
No, but you were like, "Oh, what is it? What is it?" Like you didn't know.
Whatever.
Me and Rick
Yeah, whatever.
Go back to the fucking days, bro.
Yeah,
all right?
me and Rick. Yeah,
McCollum,
we're all homies apparently.
It's so dense. There's so many things going on at once. You know, I fucking love that guy.
Gosh, that man. Yeah, that poor.
but, yeah,
he
so-
quit the movie industry after the prequels.
No, he didn't. He's still around. He's
Seemed
just
like he did.
no. Well, of course, because it's not Star Wars. George is
Well,
very
yeah.
particular. But anywho, the structure of Lucasfilm doesn't seem to be changing all that much, but it does seem to be a little bit more streamlined and cohesive with themselves now, where now they're like, okay, everyone has their role. And what I think the best thing about this is that we know that there's 4 Star Wars movies coming out in the next at least 10 years. 7 if you're counting like the Rian Johnson trilogy, and 8 if you're counting Rogue Squadron and all the other shit that's been announced, canceled, and redone. But either way, over the next 10 years, starting in 2026, probably till 2036, maybe even like 2035, we're going to be getting a lot of Star Wars movies and content. We're going to get a lot of stories, a lot of live action shows, animated shows, all that stuff. It looks like Lucasfilm is setting themselves up to spearhead and go, okay, everyone has their positions, everyone knows their job and their role. Let's get to work. And even with the move like this, it doesn't make me think, oh, Kathleen Kennedy is almost out the door. It makes me think, okay, she's going to be around for a little bit still, because yeah, there was this last era, but like we said about the Rey thing, the Rey movie, of her trying to validate that sequel story and everything. I think she's really trying to leave her stamp and mark on Star Wars and Lucasfilm and set things up in a way of, okay, we introduced this new era. We showed that we can do new Star Wars stories that aren't reliant on all the old stuff that we've done and remembering everything. Now we're actually going to start something new, have people in place to continue what we've started after Kathy leaves. Do you guys feel more confident today in Lucasfilm and their planning for the future with this news about Dave Filoni, or do you feel same, worse? How do you feel about it now?
I know. This is a huge confidence boost. It is. And you know, you're gonna have people. I mean, I see some in the chat already. Yeah, people are like, "Oh, nothing's gonna change until Kathleen's gone," and we know where this is coming from, right? I'm not speaking necessarily for every single person's chat, but we know where this is coming from. Okay, if they see one woman, okay, they're gonna say she's still meddling, right? If they see one lead, because if the Rey movie's still being made, she's still meddling. It's anything they consider diversity, they're going to say it's going to be there as long as Kathleen's going to be there. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, it's 2023. It doesn't matter who the fuck takes over. It's going to be there. Okay. That's just the reality. That's just reality. Okay. And diversity is not an evil word. It's a good word. As long as you don't put diversity over story. Okay. You can have female characters. You can have people of color. You can have all this wonderful stuff. Just write a good goddamn story with them in it. That's all we want. Okay? But people now are so jaded that the moment they see it, and there are certain people in Geeks and Gamers and other places that literally have said, the moment we see it now, yes, we're immediately going to be negative about it because this is what we expect, and most of the time we're right. So we don't even have to see it. We're gonna be triggered, basically, is what it is, because it's happening. Well, if you're going to have that kind of negative view, you're never going to love Star Wars again. So just leave at that point. Or stick around with the rest of us and consume each thing and judge each one on its merit. That's what you can do. This one sucked for this reason. I like this one. This sucked for that reason. This was great. That's it. They're not all going to be bangers, guys, for one reason or another. It's just, it's not going to happen.
Well, you're saying they're not all.
But having...
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
but yeah, I was just going to close it up. But this, either way, this is a huge confidence boost. It's showing, okay, because they don't need this just for PR, because it's not like he's loved by a certain segment, but it's not like everybody is praising Filoni. There's lots of haters too for
Mhm.
So they didn't do all this just for a PR stunt, right? Just for a PR boost. Okay, the guy has fucking power. He's gonna
Yeah.
he's there. So the fact that something like I said and Palpatine said too, that's a good sign. That shows that they're serious about continuity. They're serious about cohesion. They're serious about it being consistent, and there being a vision.
Mhm.
What that vision is, we'll see.
Before we move on to the topic of Dave Filoni's history and his work at
Hold
Lucasfilm,
on a second.
Hang on, I said
Oh,
before,
okay,
God
okay,
damn
okay,
it,
okay.
God damn, let a brother
All
fucking
right.
speak.
I'm used to.
Before we
I'm
move
used to how this
on
goes.
to Lucasfilm and Disney and Dave Filoni's history with them, Palpamemes, how do you feel about the structure of Lucasfilm as it stands today? Do you feel more confident or less confident? How are your feelings going forward for Lucasfilm?
I have a familiar sense of hope, but I've been burnt by that familiar sense of hope. I'm gonna have to wait to actually see the change in effect before I really let myself be like, okay, we're going good now. Do I think this will make good change? Yes, I think it's very possible. But I'm going the route where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait and see. Because again, of the reasons I brought up earlier with, will this actually be allowed to take place? Will he be able to do the role he has been hired to do? And will that land in the final product? If that's the case, let's say that's the route they are going. Absolutely. Having a creative vision from one guy that bounces off to another and they all come together, and that's the future of Star Wars. Yeah, that'd give me more hope, because what we have now is a bunch of nothing. We don't have a plan. We don't have, we have all these creative differences and stuff. Just look at The Mandalorian. So yeah, if it goes that route, yes, I think I would definitely be more confident in the future of Star Wars. So in a sense of itself, yeah, I am more confident in it.
Yeah, I'm not on the same boat of confidence. I do feel like a lot of this might just kind of be similar, kind of some of the same. And the reason I feel that is because of Filoni's history at Lucasfilm and the work that he has done under Lucasfilm. Like looking,
Yeah, remember Alex?
and that's my biggest fear. I that's honestly my biggest fear is that it's going to be a lot of member berries with Dave. But beyond that, like it's hard to look at everything and really get to what really is Dave and what really isn't. Like looking back at Clone Wars, everyone gives Dave so much praise for the Clone Wars, but they forget Clone Wars had a writer's room. Dave Filoni did not write like even over, I would say, 5 episodes from seasons 1 through
The man
5.
worked with George Lucas on the episode ideas.
Not only that, Palpatine,
yes,
correct
but
him
yes,
here.
but-
That is literally his role now. Is to hire directors to have
yes,
a writer's room. That's the whole point.
His worries are kind of like my worries, which is it actually going to be that? Will that be fulfilled properly? Right?
But see,
He's not writing.
But I don't even like the framing of that, because he has been, when you say fulfilled properly, he's been fulfilling that for years now. All the projects this guy has worked on.
I'm talking movies. And,
but even then, he's doing his own movie and all that stuff. And like the problem with the sequels was not a lack of Dave Filoni, like truly. But when you look outside of the sequels, he's had his fingers in everything, and not everybody has really liked this stuff. He did Clone Wars, but it wasn't all him. Yes, he worked with George and everything, but so did everyone else involved in that series. And then when it came to Clone Wars Season 7, look what happened. He had full creative control over Clone Wars, more than he ever did. And those first 8 episodes sucked. The Bad Batch
He had full creative control and writing.
Yes.
What you're describing with the first 6 seasons of Clone Wars, which were good,
yes,
is what his role is now. It's him overseeing it. He's like, it's really not all him. Well, so what? If he's chief creative director and these movies are bangers, are you going to say, well, it's not? It's not.
That's what I've been saying.
He had other writers doing it.
But what I'm saying in reference to Clone Wars is that people give Dave Filoni this majestic ability where he wrote, directed, produced, and literally thought up every single second and did everything on his own. And that's not the case. So yes, it is good that of this role that he's doing, because like you said, he did already do this with the Clone Wars, but that's not the credit people give him for it. People are forgetting that people always are trying to say now he is the next George Lucas. And that's an insult to fucking George Lucas.
Who cares what people say? We got to look at the product.
Everyone
no. Fuck. Fuck people. We got to look at the
Get off
product.
Twitter only.
Okay,
But
Do
I'm
what I
trying
did.
you
to
got to look at the product. Okay,
Yeah, but
no,
I'm
we got to
trying
look
to
at the
look at the
product.
product.
What did I say in our chat? I am not the people on Twitter. Your straw manning ain't going to work with me. Listen to me.
But this-
You got to look
hang on,
at the
this is not
product.
a straw
If
man.
you're
You-
saying the one good thing he did was overseeing a writer's room, and that was the one good thing he did, and I'm telling you, that's exactly what he's going to be doing now. That means good things are going to come from it.
Okay,
If
okay.
people give him too much credit, are you mad at him or are you mad at the people who
but
idolize him?
you're talking about just the Clone Wars. I'm talking about all his projects. Everything that he has done is like Rebels, Resistance, fucking what else is it? I don't give a fuck about the Meltdown thing. Resistance, Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, Ahsoka is all him. This stuff hasn't really landed in a lot of ways with a lot of people. I mean, Ahsoka is the most Dave Filoni project ever. Do you really want exactly that going forward? And no, you're going to say,
well,
oh,
every
he's not
project's
trying-
different. Every project's different.
I know every but look at what he's had his hands in. The only thing this motherfucker has not even touched, was not even mentioned, didn't even work on was Andor. And it is
Star Wars
the best
only.
Star Wars
only.
project since
Everything you're
Hold on,
complaining
hold on,
about
hold
is
on.
where he
Hold
was
on.
the lead writer.
Hold on,
For
Lunga.
fuck's sake.
I'm bringing up your point only. I think the good thing about this is, right, let's look back at Ahsoka. The had a lot of messy writing issues, right, which are consistent with Filoni's writing. Filoni's not being a writer for Star Wars. He's overseeing the projects, which is what he is best at, because I think we can all agree the ideas for Ahsoka were really, really good. But the show needed a better writer.
Okay.
We needed
So
a writer.
if
Just
you-
like
you were telling-
George is a great idea guy, great behind the camera,
and
he
he's
can't
a
mess with the fucking
fantastic
script.
writer.
Okay, but what Filoni's role as Lucasfilm is just now being a little enhanced. And when you look at Rebels, when you look at Resistance, Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, even
Stop
Book of
bringing
Boba
up fucking
Fett-
Resistance. It's a kindergarten show.
Okay, it doesn't matter what
It's
he
meant for
fucking made it.
5-year-olds.
Okay, so
It's
was-
meant
the
for
Clone Wars was
5-year-olds.
meant for-
You-
Clone Wars was meant for
if
kids.
you
It was
were
the biggest
5
fucking show.
If you were 5, you would have fucking loved it.
No, I
Okay.
get what you're saying.
I'm sure.
You can have
It's-
a kid show for Star Wars that also adults can love, like the Clone Wars,
But,
right?
but
I
still,
get what you're saying.
fine. Keep Resistance.
That's the that's
Whoa,
Rebels.
hang on.
That was
fuck
Clone
Resistance.
Wars.
That's irrelevant. Rebels, fucking Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi.
Rebels is
These
great.
shows. Okay, you can say that, and I know a lot of people on Twitter.
A
will
lot
agree,
of
but
people like Rebels.
but that's only amongst the diehard Dave Filoni fans online. That's not a real audience.
No,
outside
Rebels
of the
fans
Star
hate
Wars.
Dave Filoni now after Ahsoka. Let's be real.
Okay, well,
the Rebels
I
fans
don't
hate
give a
Dave
fuck.
Filoni.
They don't know what they want. Rebels fans are like 10 people in a room, and that's really it. Okay.
And I
My
just
point
want to
is-
say, real quick, while we're on Rebels and Dave Filoni, and you can continue after, okay? Dave Filoni didn't write Rebels. He did what
Yes, he
he's doing.
did. He's the showrunner of the fucking
He is,
show.
exactly.
What do you mean
He's
exactly?
not the writer.
You just how can you be a showrunner of a show and then you're going to say he's not a writer? That is like
He's
saying,
not
oh, he
the
directed
writer.
the movie, but he didn't write it. It doesn't matter. It's still his fucking project. Rebels is Dave
and
Filoni.
it's good. And I think it's better.
Rebels is
I
not
think
good.
it's-
1/3 of the show is filler. The show never
Can we-
barely even
can-
cracked a
listen,
million
are you
views at
gonna
any
say-
time.
Are you going to
It's
say
unpopular.
that the Clone Wars is great, but then say Rebels is not good because 1/3 of it is filler?
Can we
Yeah, I
mention
say that.
also that 3 of these things are fucking animated shows? Okay, people think I hate animated shows. I don't, but they're different
You're not a
categories.
kid.
God damn it! There are fuck them kids. They are different categories. God damn it! Okay, they are on different levels. They are.
I
Okay,
still do not
writing for an
understand how you-
animated show is different than writing for a live action show. It just is. Okay,
I
and
don't
he
understand how you
even
can look at things
admitted
like that.
that there's a difference. That was
I-
one of his biggest struggles was going from writing and directing animated to live action. Okay, that was his biggest struggle, and he's learning and he's getting better. Not great yet, but he's getting better. Okay, still it's a show running show, and your biggest things to say hate on him about is fucking animated shows. And motherfucker, while you didn't love it, you thought Ahsoka was decent. So don't even play this game. Don't play this revisionist goddamn history with us.
Yeah,
Star Wars
no, I'm,
Only.
but no, but no. I'm
you
not
said
playing the
at
revisionist
the end,
history.
I'm looking forward to season 2. So stop
Yes,
it.
I did. You can do good, and I can still have some complaints, major complaints with what he did. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the history, and you guys are like, I don't know why you guys are so pro Dave now with this news, because when I'm looking at this stuff, none of us really liked Bad Batch. You know, Papa Memes and Goldman like Rebels. But,
Again, another animated fucking show.
It doesn't matter. This is the work he has.
Yes, it
I don't understand how you can look at the work he has and then be
I will
like, that's
tell
not
you why.
irrelevant because it's live action.
No. I'll tell you why. Because the live action stuff he has worked on, I was generally satisfied with.
Oh, you liked Book of Boba? Tell me how much good Book of Boba did.
Actually, how much input did he have on Bob?
Let's slow down because he did not.
Producer in a
No. Here we go. Now he's just.
Question, all right. I didn't.
Now I gotta look it up. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
You guys just you don't get it. You simply don't. But I do not understand with the Star Wars fandom looking at all the stuff that has come out under Disney and them saying I don't like Resistance, I don't like Bad Batch, I don't like Book of Boba, I don't like season 3 of The Mandalorian, I don't like Ahsoka, I don't like all this stuff that has come out. That Dave Filoni has had a large influence, excluding Andor, which is the best one, and then on the same hand being like, but I'm so glad we're getting more of the exact same thing.
I don't feel like people who. I don't know if I agree with that. I know a lot of people who hate Ahsoka and they equally despise Dave Filoni I know a lot of people that are very upset with this news. Like I'm in some chats and stuff where literally they're like, it's Jover. All right. It's completely Jover. And so I don't know if people who hate, I get where you're coming from.
Let him shut the fuck up. We're gonna, no. Cause you're gonna shut the fuck up. Okay. You're giving, not you. I'm talking about only. You are doing this whole.
You're pointing all over the
wrong way.
That's why I had to. That's why I had to clarify. Because I realized you didn't know who I was telling. Shut the fuck up. Because you're giving this ethereal. He's had his fingers in everything just because he's been at the head. It's Dave Filoni. They're giving him everything, and you're without any data. You're just claiming that bullshit. Okay? No. Stop. You brought up the one series I fucking despise, which was the Book of fucking Boba Fett. Filoni has one motherfucking writing credit. It was episode fucking 1. Okay? So shut up with that bullshit. Okay? Stop with that.
Well, we're not going to act like he was an executive producer, or that when they say they're doing the Mandoverse, it's with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. You really going to pretend like he had no involvement in this at all?
Everyone's niece and nephew gets an executive producer credit. Shut the fuck up with that.
No,
yes,
it's different when it's Dave and John.
Hold on. J.J. Abrams has a producer credit on The Last Jedi. All right. So I get
Christopher Nolan still has executive producer credits in fucking DC movies after he was fucking done. Okay,
but I think the problem with this is we don't know how much input he had. The Book of Bob is a complete Star Wars war crime. I mean, it is god awful.
It was handed to Robert Rodriguez. Yes. It was his fucking vision. Okay. You know that? We've talked about it over and over again.
There's a lot of different visions.
That's why we got his fault. You can
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Favreau wrote
multivariate analysis, so
7 episodes.
And one was good, and it was a Mandalorian episode. Okay,
I mean,
but the point is, guys, the proof is right there. Those Mandalorian episodes, in my opinion, are proof that we can't just point to Dave Filoni. We can't just point to Favreau or Robert. Or yes, the directing in the Book of Bob was horrific with Robert's stuff. I get that. What I'm saying is, the Book of Boba Fett is such a tragedy and such a complete mess that I don't want to just look at Dave Filoni and be like, well, you worked on this, so you fucking suck. Because that I don't know. I feel like that'd be unfair. But I get Only's point of combining there was a lot of things that I can't stand. I can't stand Bad Batch. I liked Ahsoka, but it has a lot of problems. Bob is Bob, and The Mandalorian season 3 is Mando season 3. But I don't think Dave Filoni had really any creative input in season 3 of Mando.
Okay, between executive and associate producers, John Bartnicki, Carrie Beck, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Karen Gilchrist, John Hamplin, Abigail Keller, Kathleen Kennedy, David Lowery, Kim Richards, Robert Rodriguez, Christian Schreck, Clint Spillers, Colin Wilson. I don't know fucking 90% of these fucking people.
Dwayne Johnson's a producer, apparently.
Okay, so because you don't know 90% of those people, and because Dave has openly said that he's involved with all these projects that have come out recently, but just not in the early phases, you still, for some reason,
involved means you're in the room.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you're gonna all these people involved. Robert Rodriguez's vision. Dave Favreau wrote 7 of them. You're gonna blame Dave Filoni for fucking Book of Boba Fett? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
For the whole thing, I understand that Robert Rodriguez was the director, but who was one of the people who probably made that decision? Dave fucking Filoni. Look at all the producers on. Look at all the producers on that list and ask. I want to ask you this one question.
It was Jon Favreau. Don't you remember Jon Favreau?
Who has the most influence out of all of them? John, Dave, Rodriguez, like
John. Fucking John! Because he was the one who brought Robert Rodriguez in to direct an episode of The Mandalorian, and he said he fell in love with him, and he literally sent him the fucking thing, direct this for me now, and he did it with fucking toys in his backyard. That's how he fucking... It was Favreau that wanted Rodriguez. I'm not saying Filoni didn't like him too. He might have. But it was Favreau. You're trying to put shit at Filoni's feet that's not his. And because he's executive producer, you are going to attribute every failure to him. And that's dumb.
Okay, I'm not attributing every failure. I'm saying that the things that have not been good and that people have considered failures, Dave Filoni just happens to be in the same room at the same fucking time that this is going on. Like it's
all these other people.
It's so weird. There's so much blood on his hand, and you're like, okay, well, yes, he did hand the knife to the guy, but he didn't stab him. At least he didn't stab him. He just got the knife.
No, you're seeing 8 people in a room. They're all looking at you. Each one has a drop of blood, and you're looking at Dave. I'm
gonna lose
because out of every time that someone's been stabbed, those 8 people aren't in the room every time. But Dave Filoni sure as fuck
Kathleen Kennedy is like looks like she came out of a fucking vampire movie covered in blood, and you're pointing at Dave.
What?
This is literally the current problem with Lucasfilm, and this is what the CCO role is supposed to fix, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing he's already been doing, just at an earlier like you say fix.
It's not.
I'm just saying, look at the track record of what we have under Dave Filoni, and look at all these and tell, like, looking at.
Why do you keep saying that? Under Dave Filoni.
Fine. I'm on IMDb right fucking now. I will share my. How the fuck do you share your screen? Shit.
Okay, Boomer.
This is why we can't trust you. In the meantime, let's take a look at a super chat from Grievous Reborn.
Thank you, Grievous.
The people who hate him blame him for everything in Clone Wars. They don't like, and people who like him credit him too much for what they like in it, and that is very fucking true. Thank you very much for the super chat. By the way, if you are watching, before we pull up the IMDb shit for Dave, please leave a like, and if you're watching on the Star Wars Only channel, sub to Chatooine, watch it on Chatooine. That's where we're going in the near future. Let's see, where's mine? That's longer. This is me. All right, so look at his writing credits with Star Wars, starting with Star Wars Rebels. 8.1, Resistance. He has writing credits. He's a story creator, created by 38 episodes. That's at a 5.3. Okay, Clone Wars, he did 13 episodes. I think most of that comes from season 6 and 7. 8.4, probably the best thing other than The Mandalorian that he's worked on. Book of Boba Fett, okay, like Lunga said, he has 1 writing credit for the 1 episode he did at the beginning, and then he directed. That's at a 7.2. Tales of the Jedi, this is all him. 8.2. Tales of the Jedi, nobody talks about that. He created, developed, and wrote Bad Batch. It's at a 7.8.
Tales of the Jedi was good.
No one talks about it, and I don't think it was that great. I think it was fine. It's just a solid series. Oh wow! You want to explore more of Count Dooku's backstory? Wouldn't it be
everything has to be The Empire Strikes Back? Everything has to be The Empire Strikes Back for him for it to be worthwhile.
Hey, I'm sorry. I don't accept less than perfection from my Star Wars. Okay. I want perfection, and Dave Filoni has not delivered. And I know it's a lot to demand from him, but still, with the history of him and looking at him and everything, I'm not so confident in him like everyone else is. Especially like if Andor wasn't a thing, I don't think I'd be so like anal about this. But now that I know that like he was not remotely involved in Andor, and Andor was made by professionals in the film industry and didn't get involved with all the Lucasfilm politics of shit and everything, it makes me go like, God damn, like this was so good and didn't have Dave Filoni. I want to see something more like Andor. I don't want to see more of Ahsoka.
But you're doing a false positive. You're doing a false positive.
Andor was
you're saying Andor was good. Thank you. Exactly. That's what you're saying. Oh, look, I didn't like all this stuff, even though I did like some of it, but I'm just going to say I didn't like it as much, just to prove my point. And look at Andor, who I didn't even fucking watch until 2 weeks ago. Okay. This is the greatest thing ever. It's only good because Dave Filoni wasn't a part of it.
I'm not saying it's only good because he wasn't. I'm saying what a fucking coincidence that the show he has no remote involvement in.
Suspicious.
Like, goddamn, the coincidences are just fucking everywhere. Holy shit. But no,
Damn
no.
it, Okaro, get out of the chat.
I don't even see him in there right now. All right, so clearly we have a lot of expectations for Dave Filoni. The fans have a lot of expectations for him going forward. We have like a couple more topics we'll get into this week on Star Wars Twitter, and then we'll close up the show here in a little bit. But when it comes to meeting fans' expectations, do you guys think that Dave Filoni can deliver? Because Star Wars, as we've said as many times now, it's in a very tight situation now. Not a lot of hope for Star Wars in the future. Not a lot of excitement for Star Wars. This could turn things around. This could be, Dave coming in, something the fans truly and clearly want, having a large influence, and him trying to meet those expectations and deliver on what people have been missing from Star Wars. Do you guys feel more positive about Lucasfilm meeting these expectations now that Dave is involved? Do you think he can help Lucasfilm meet the fan expectations going forward for this new era of films? This is the biggest test Lucasfilm has ever had. The sequels were not it, but this is. You don't think he can do it? You don't think he can meet fans' expectations?
And not because of it, not because of his lack of skill or ability to do so. There is a good number of fans that are going to hate everything that comes from this period. And even the things that are good, even the things that are good, they're going to say, all right.
And or
that yeah. Not admitting that it was like fucking spectacular, right? They're going to say, it was okay. Or come up with bullshit. I don't like it. There's no lightsabers in there. There was no Jedi. Star Wars is about Jedi. There was no Jedi. It's not a Star Wars show.
Who made the Luthen Jedi theory video?
Oh no, that was a theory. Okay, that doesn't mean the show sucked because there wasn't any.
I thought, you weren't saying it's bad because it wasn't true. Yeah,
right. And if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be disappointed. You know what I mean? It's still a good show. I still loved it. And yes, now you said fans. Okay, we're not talking about general audiences, right? We're talking about fans. That's what we're talking about. That was your question. That was what's on the little graphic you put up. Was
Fans.
So when I say fans, I'm not thinking general audiences. Okay, so we have 3 segments. You could say there's a little Venn diagram with them a little bit, but you have the OT purists, you have the prequel lovers, and then you have the sequel lovers. Okay, and like I said, there's a Venn diagram where they kind of cross over a little bit. So, but the OT purist, and not that there isn't, because like Star Wars Santa loves the OT. He's old and he grew up with the OT and he loves the sequels. Okay, so there's some bleed over with that stuff, but a lot of the dissatisfaction you saw there, the divided fan base, were mostly OT purists. Some prequel lovers, okay, and then as it ended, the prequel lovers a lot of them bounced off too. Okay, and then you had the sequel people who were pissed at Rise of Skywalker because they fucking killed Kylo Ren. Okay, you can't make Star Wars fucking fans happy. Okay, you cannot make them fucking happy. You can't. And everyone is waiting for this day, this Jesus that's gonna come and unite the fandom, and it's not gonna fucking happen. It's not, because the people who are pissed are gonna stay pissed. And I'm not even arguing. Do they have a reason for themselves, their own subjective reasons? A lot of them do. Okay, but here's the thing: if it's that bad, and I'm not saying this, if you don't like our stuff, get out. That's not what I'm saying. But if it's that bad, then move on. Watch something else. There's lots of stuff I watch that I'm like, it fell off. I'm like, I can't watch this shit no more, and I'm done with it. Okay, I haven't done that with Star Wars yet. I haven't done that with a lot of stuff I love. But then hop off. Why you still have these arguments? Why are you still angry?
I want them to be angry though, Lunga. Like,
it's not going to change anything, though.
I know it won't.
It's not.
You're right. It's not going to change. Like, I feel like trying to be self-aware and reasonable as a person that I am. Of like, yes, I didn't like the sequels, and I'm not happy with what happened, but I have to move on. And some people didn't move on, and some people left the frame. That's my thing. Is like, I'm okay with people being upset with the new stuff. I don't want them to leave though, because that's what has led to what Star Wars is now. Of like, my feeling of, okay, we have a smaller audience now, a smaller fan base because the new stuff hasn't been so good. But these people like some of the new stuff we've been doing. So let's just keep
I don't want them to leave either. Like I said, I think I'm not saying get out of here. I don't want them to leave. I'm not saying I want them to. What I'm saying is you can tell that they're just not going to be happy. They're not. As long as Disney owns Star Wars, they are not going to be happy. So
That's fair.
why are that Mike? It's the whole insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. If you hate Disney that much owning Star Wars, why do you keep watching it? Just to rage? Is that literally the only reason at this point? Because you say, oh, we need direction. Okay, well, you're getting it. Okay, sorry. I know you had your little say with Filoni, but before all this nonsense with the sequels, people were generally happy with the Clone Wars and high on Filoni. Okay.
Yeah.
When Mando 1 and 2 were on, people were still high on Filoni. Okay. Why? Then season 7 wasn't as bad as you make it out to be. I don't know what you're saying. There was that one arc that was boring, but it was otherwise pretty damn good.
It was more of the same Clone Wars. It wasn't better or worse compared to the other seasons.
No,
it had its highs and it had its lows.
I think Siege of Mandalore was so perfect that it overshadows the first 8 episodes of that season. But I vividly remember when that season was coming out, people being like, "Damn, this is kind of ass." Because the Bad Batch was clearly a setup for the Bad Batch series, and then
I didn't feel that until the middle arc, because there was 3 arcs, right? There's three episodes.
Yeah, there was the Bad Batch,
right?
the Tracer and Raha twins, and then then there was,
and that was the one that I didn't like because it didn't even seem necessary. Okay, they use these characters that just weren't necessary. It didn't seem right.
Well, Lunga, they were necessary because they showed up in the Bad Batch, and you remember them from Clone Wars season 7.
And I don't like the Bad Batch, but you know why? Because of Omega. If it was just them, I'd be fine with it. Fuck that kid. I can't stand Omega. Okay, well, that's the thing I hate about it. So, but it's otherwise. There's some gems in there. There's some good stuff that's adding to the lore. So people. When did this turn on Filoni happen? When he said things like, I was arguing with people on Twitter about it, and they think I'm in this group. When he started saying things like, when it was become more apparent that he liked The Last Jedi. When it became more apparent that, because of that middle arc, that he's listening to Kathleen Kennedy, and he's doing things like that, and that's what it started to turn, right? Because of his apparent, they want him to hate his bosses. They want him to be angry they want him to be angry like they are and take over and say, lead a revolution. And remember when all those stories were coming out?
At Lucasfilm,
the insurrection at Lucasfilm, right? So when that didn't pan out,
2024,
right? When that didn't pan out, they're like, "Oh, fuck Filoni! You see, he's not fighting for us." That's why they hate him. That's why suddenly everything sucks, and it's not. It's not what's happening.
The entire reason I do feel like a lot of the projects
I think that's a minority
has turned on him because of. So, Rebels, vividly, I remember when Rebels was coming out and a lot of people being like, we lost Clone Wars for this. And, I know I have to do this every time now with Rebels. Yes, it's very true. There is a large fan base on the online Star Wars fandom who likes Rebels. However, there's a significant more amount of people who are like, I don't really like it, or I don't care, because when that show came out, it wasn't very popular and it's still not that very popular. And Okairo puts us in a good point where he says, fans of the animated Star Wars shows and everything are a very small faction of fans, at least when it comes to the fandom online. And it's why, despite the Ahsoka series having Hayden Christensen, its views were still low. And that's very true. The views with Ahsoka were very consistent. That's one of the best things that it had going for it, is it's not like Andor where it started kind of low and then it jumped up really high by the end of the series. The Ahsoka series started high, dropped off, and then stayed consistent and gained a little bit. It gained a lot with Hayden coming back and everything, but it just stayed consistent in viewership because there was a lot of fans of Rebels, of Clone Wars, of all the stuff that's come before, who are like, oh no, I know Dave, I trust Dave, and we are part of the group that Dave makes content for. And that's good, and that's kind of all fine and dandy, but it goes back to what I've said for a while now, of I don't want to just make Star Wars content for a specific group of fans. But Palpamemes, let's get to you real quick about Dave Filoni meeting the expectations of fans. Do you think he can do that?
I think we're going to have to wait. I don't necessarily agree with, I agree to an extent with what Lunga's saying, but I think who he's talking about is a minority in this group. I think the vast majority of fans have given up and they've left. And we see that in the Disney Plus numbers, right? And it's going to take some time. It's going to take some really, really good movies to where the general audience and the hardcore fan base comes back and comes together and was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you guys another chance. And I don't know if Dave Filoni, with his position, has the power to do so. I go back to my first point when we first started talking about this, is that Lucasfilm's problems go way beyond one man's ability to fix. So I'm going to say no. Dave Filoni does not have the power. I enjoy a lot of his stuff, but he doesn't have the power to just bring this fandom back, because the issues go way beyond what he can do when it comes to stories. And so I'm just going to say no to that. I think the majority of people, like we were seeing with Marvel, has simply given up. They're like, I understand Lunga's point of there are a number of people who, yeah, they enjoy rage. They enjoy rage content. And it's the worst thing ever. Kind of, there's people that, I don't know if it gives them a sense of adrenaline or whatever, but I feel like the majority of people who dislike Disney Star Wars have genuinely just dropped off. And we do see that with the numbers, right? They gave a Mandalorian another chance because they were like, again, it brought people back and were like, okay, this is actually pretty good. And then you saw how that went. So no, I'm going to say no to that question. It's going to take a lot more work than one person can do.
What's going to determine the success to get the numbers you want, Star Wars? It's not Star Wars fans. It's not. It's general audiences. I'm sorry.
That's true.
That's what it is. It's
I
general audiences who, Star Wars. Remember Star Wars? And that's
the social part of Star Wars fans bring that hype to the general audience.
That is one of the reasons why the Mandalorian worked so well. Is
yes,
everybody
exactly,
in the fandom was word of mouthing about the Mandalorian. We were a great.
Because if that was the case, nobody would have watched Rise of Skywalker. There was so much animosity. So much animosity after The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but that was a different kind of...
Why?
And the reason...
Because general audiences went to see it, and general audiences who really don't care about the lore, Adam Driver, look, he's kissing, look him and Rey. And general audiences came back for that.
But no, hang on. There was a $300 million box office drop-off from Last Jedi to Rise of Skywalker. Clearly, there was enough animosity towards the Rise of Skywalker for a lot of fans to not go see it. And for let's not forget, The Last Jedi...
Not to stop it from hitting $1 billion.
But what did I say?
It was the last movie in the Skywalker saga.
It barely cracked $1 billion.
It was still that end game of Star Wars, right?
It's horrible.
That brings general audiences. It does.
That's what I'm saying. We're living in a different time now where, okay, why would I pay Disney? What is it like $80 a year now for shows that are bad to some being okay?
You need marketing and hype. Everyone thought the TV shows would do this stuff, and that was Marvel's problem. Okay. And that's why Captain Marvel, the movie was so abysmal, because one of the biggest problems is people's like, wait, how many shows I got to watch to know what's going on here? I got to watch WandaVision. I got to watch.
Sure, and that's why I'm really worried
Miss
for
Marvel.
Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie, right?
Right. Now, but here's the thing: it's not as linked. It's not, to me. It's not as bad as Marvel's was.
Well, we don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Okay, there was a lot of stuff that you had to introduce. Okay, these were all new characters that you never saw in the movies. Period. Okay, whatever movie we make with Star Wars, it's going to be new characters, except for fucking Rey. Okay, it's going to be new characters regardless. You see what I'm saying? It's not like Marvel. That was Star Wars, even though it's been around for 50 fucking years, it's not 50 years of continuity. Okay. Mm-hmm. Marvel was 10 years of continuity of these audiences, general audiences, not even Marvel fans, that grew up literally with it. Right? They were in fucking junior high when they started, and they graduated in college by Endgame. That these general audiences went to go see it, right? And then these TV shows come out, they're just moviegoers, they didn't want to see it. Now they're going to see these movies like, wait, who the fuck are these people? I don't know any of these people. You see what I'm saying? That's what the difference is with Star Wars. Okay, you're looking at it from the perspective of us as Star Wars fans watching the TV shows. People aren't going to know who these people are. Well, they're not going to know because they haven't seen them in the movies anyway. It's going to be new to them.
Well, and that's where the fan expectations come in, because I do think the fans do mix in with the general and casual audiences that bring in a lot of the money. And I think for Dave trying to meet expectations of his fans, which is I think at the end of the day, it is simple. Like we just want good Star Wars. Like that's all everybody wants in this situation. We just want good Star Wars, and I think
good
Dave
Star
can
Wars
deliver that.
will build hype to the casual audience, is what I'm saying. That's
Well,
why I'm
of
saying
course,
it's going to
yeah,
take
but-
more
but-
than just Dave Filoni overseeing things to get that casual audience back.
But
and the fans
this
back.
this is a good start of a marketing campaign and trying to build in this new era is because now you have someone like Dave where people can look at and be like, hey,
He's
the
Kevin
diehard
Feige.
fans.
If you can market it that way, like this guy's leading the show.
But no, they shouldn't market it that way. I don't think. I mean, being like, oh, this guy is
Well,
everything
they need to
now
market
because
it. Hey, Kay, we're leading with an actual creative vision this time.
well, yeah, but I mean, they did that last time too. I mean, that's kind of a given with I think what's going to happen with the future Star Wars. I think with Dave now though, you have a lot of diehard fans where you're building up some goodwill with them because they're like, hey, this is the guy we've wanted to represent us, and now you're putting him in the spot to do that, and so this makes us more excited for what's going to come next, as opposed if they didn't do this and Dave wasn't involved at all with some of these new movies. I think the excitement would be lessened in a way. I think this adds to the excitement of future Star Wars
Right, because
projects.
this is change, right? And change can be good or
Yes.
bad, but it's something different, right? That gives some people a sense of hope
hmm
because there's potential with that. So yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to the future of Star Wars and with Dave Filoni involved in it, this is our last topic before we move on to this week in Star Wars Twitter. We do have to understand Dave's vision for Star Wars and what he is going to bring to the table when it comes to the future of Star Wars and these 3 to 4 new movies and then however many shows and everything. What do you guys think is going to be Dave's vision for this future? Clearly, a big part of it is going to be the Mandoverse and his movie tying all that stuff in. But his role now to tie everything in together, that's pretty significant. And that means he has to have a vision for the future and a goal for all these stories to, interconnect, have his heir to the Empire moment. But then there's something beyond that with the Dawn of the Jedi, with the Race Star Wars movie, with Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie. What do you guys think is going to be Filoni's vision for the future of Star Wars now that he has this new role as chief creative officer?
I for me, honestly, the main thing I feel is connective tissue. And you're going to look at it as member berries, okay? But what makes the Star Wars universe cohesive is the connective tissue, okay? Now, connective tissue does not have to be, remember this? Oh, look who is showing up now. Oh, look who's showing up now. That doesn't have to be that. You have to feel that it's a lived-in universe. You have to feel that there's history, okay? You have to feel that there's history that carries on. When you hear things like we all talk about, like when we're watching Andor, when we're watching Ahsoka, trying to speculate what the Rakatan Empire was, it this, was it that,
Yeah.
Revan was it, what I'm saying? I think that kind of stuff is going to be a big deal for him, okay? Because he did that. Because if you think what is the one thing, like it or not, what is the one thing Dave Filoni brought to the forefront, which gave us the tremendous shows that we do like? He brought Mandalorians back into the fold other than just being stories, right?
True.
Yeah, there were books, there was stuff, EU stuff, but he's the one who brought he was the one who brought the Mandalorians back as an actual thing in movies and television. Okay? He's the one who brought him back, other than because in the movies all we had was Boba Fett, right? He brought him back in his animated show that led to all this other stuff we've seen, that led to Sabine and Rebels, that led to the Mandalorian. Okay, that's a big deal. And that was remember, Mandalorian was just some thing we heard about because of Boba Fett's armor was Mandalorian armor, right? Ooh, these Mandalorians, and then some books were made here and there. That's what I feel it's going to be. It's going to be that connective tissue like that carries through. Okay, that it's could just be a myth or just a little off-put legend in these things that we've seen, and now we see it fleshing out of here, how it started or how it played through, how it connects with everything else. You know what I mean? That I think is the main thing. And as far as I want to show this one chat too, because it kind of ties into what I'm saying and what you asked too. Like Dave goes three levels of approval before he does anything. No, he doesn't. We actually showed the tree. Literally, Kathleen Kennedy is the only one. He's on that first row.
If it's his creative if it's his story like Ahsoka, no, he doesn't need to get a lot of approval. But I think
now we're talking about now as chief creative. No, we're talking about now as chief creative officer.
Yeah. But I'm even with that. Just from what his wording is, he is not going to be telling James Mangold, okay, well, here's how the Jedi Order started, and here's how the story goes, and you can fill in the blanks here. James is going to pitch his story, and Dave is going to be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, here's what works in the universe, here's what doesn't work, and
Sure.
this is
what does that have to
stuff we
do?
can tie
What
in.
does that have to do to who he answers to? The thing I was commenting on was that he goes through 3 levels of approval before he does anything. He can't make the story.
Because what I'm saying is that when it comes to like the James Mangold film, Dave isn't going to have to go through any really levels of approval. There's going to be, James Mangold who has a say in this as well, and then of course
Sure,
Kathleen
sure,
Kennedy,
sure.
Michelle Rizwan, Carrie
But
Beck.
that
like,
comment means he has 3 people he has to answer to, and he doesn't.
yeah, that's
He only answers to Kathleen Kennedy. That is his only boss.
well. There's Bob Iger, there's Alan Horn, there's others in the
Hold on.
executive chain
You-
Hollywood,
you-
but at Lucasfilm, yes, it's only Kathleen Kennedy and maybe some of the people at like
Okay,
story
right.
unit, other than
But that means he doesn't answer to Iger. Kathleen Kennedy answers to Iger. Let's.
yes.
he
it has
doesn't
to
have
go
to get
through
Bob
levels, though.
Iger and Kathleen Kennedy's approval. Okay,
But
he has to get
does
Kathleen
need
Kennedy's
someone.
approval.
He does need someone like Bob Iger's faith.
Sure,
like
sure. But
If he
they're
does really
not-
good, Bob Iger's going to be like, "Yo, this Dave's guy good. Let's put him in more stuff."
Sure. But let's be honest. First of all, Bob Iger is not going to be their love, right? We know he's just there to right the ship, whatever. He's going to be leaving. Okay?
Yeah, good fucking luck with that, Bob.
Right. And the thing and here's the thing. I know we talked about the problem with the sequels was he put way too much pressure on Kathleen. Okay. Bob Iger does not have that much input to creative. Okay, he doesn't.
That's true.
He doesn't. We're talking about creative here, guys. Okay? Don't talk to me about diversity hires. Don't talk to me about how, actors. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, we're talking about creative. The path and of where the stories are going and how the story is going to be told and what the plan is for the stories. That's creatives. Okay?
Mhm.
And the problem we had with the other movies is executives were in charge of that. Okay?
Yeah,
This
they
is
had a
Dave
lot of
Filoni
middle-
now in charge of it. Okay? So if he wants to do this, and this, the only person he answers to is Kathleen Kennedy. He doesn't have to go through anybody else. Bob Iger's not Kathleen Kennedy. Hey, yeah, Dave's got this movie. I'm sure she's got to show it to him too, right? Disney does see stuff, but it's going to be a brief overview. And he's going to say, yeah, it looks good. Or that, I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. But if he's not too sure about it, I doubt Kathleen Kennedy's going to love something and Iger's going to say, nah, it's no good. That, do you see what I'm saying? That's weird. That's not going to happen. She's in charge for a reason. Okay? So he doesn't have to make those decisions. That's the whole point.
Alright,
So yeah, Kathleen Kennedy's the only person he's going to answer to at the end of the
Papa
day.
Memes, what is your expectations for Dave Filoni's future? Or no, sorry, not expectations. What do you think Dave Filoni's vision is for what's going to happen now in the future of Star Wars? What do you think Dave Filoni foresees?
Well, it's hard to say because the future of Star Wars was already mapped out before this happened, right? The Rey movie script was already written before this happened. I assume James Mangold already had an outline for his film before this happened. The only thing that's not is his Heir to the Empire movie. I can say what my hopes are. My hopes are that he does a good job with this and there's actually a consistent story and there's not a whole lot of creative meddling from outside executive sources, and it's him and he works well creatively with upcoming directors and writers. But as for now, I don't see much change happening within the next 5 years. I think it might take a little bit longer before we really start to see this in effect. And my hope is that there's consistency, right? Because again, he does good ideas. And I do think he understands Star Wars very well. I think he understands what people like about Star Wars. And then a lot of times he doesn't really understand why people love Star Wars. And that's where we get into the whole member berries thing and stuff, which Dave Filoni is a suspect for. But my expectations, I think it's too early to say, because a few years ago, he got a promotion where what was it? Executive creator or something like that. Executive creative. Right.
Yeah.
And we were having the same conversation. Oh my gosh, guys, this is great. This is a good stepping stone. And then look what's happened since those 3 years have gone. It's been a complete nightmare. And so I again, like I say, I've gotten excited for this before and I've been burnt by it. And so I'm just looking at this now. It's like, we've been through this. Yes, he's at a higher level now in a position that didn't exist before. And it seems like he's kind of filling in a spot that Kathleen Kennedy was filling in. And so it's a little bit different, but again, we got really excited about this not just too long ago, and nothing good has changed since then. And so that's why I do think it's going to take a while, and it's going to take a lot of work and effort for that change to actually come to fruition.
I mean, I think you'll see the change a little sooner, honestly. Like, I know they've been working on the Ray script. I don't think James Mangold
It's
has even turned in like an outline really for his Dawn of the Jedi movie. Like, I'm sure, I'm actually not just sure, I'm pretty confident. I would say 99% confident that Dave is going to have, of course, with his film, but with the Taika film, even if Rogue Squadron happens, the Dawn of the Jedi film, and then the Ray Star Wars movie, I think he's going to be heavily involved in all of that. I mean, that's kind of what he was teasing at with all of this. Of, these films aren't going to come out for at bare minimum at least another 3 years. Even though we're 3 years out, I don't think like the Ray script is final draft submitted and everything. Dave Filoni is going to have a bigger influence on it now than he did even 6 months ago when they announced it and everything. But I don't even think that they have a completed draft or script of it yet. I think they have a loose outline and idea of what they're doing. I do think that's going to have the least of his involvement because of how far along in the process they already are. But because it's still the beginning stages, I think he's going to have an influence on
there's
all
still
these new
time for
Star
him
Wars
to come
films.
in and bring his input and stuff. Yes,
Yeah, if it not has happened already, truth be told.
Well, another question I have is, what if it's more creators and directors leaving because of the creative issues between the executives, Dave Filoni, and all of them? Could
Well,
that could also happen?
and that's what I was kind of hinting at earlier about another hand in the pot, because I love Lawrence Kasdan, but he was one of the big reasons that Phil Lord and Chris Miller left the Solo project, because he was really unhappy with how they were doing things on set and all that stuff. So it is another layer of complexity, and yeah, someone else that you could have fundamental creative differences with. Like, there's been jokes on like Twitter of like, oh god, like Tony Gilroy going in to meet Dave Filoni for a meeting about the new Star Wars story and all that stuff. Like, Tony Gilroy does not need to be taking notes on storytelling from Dave Filoni. Like, it is kind of like an adult and child thing, and I'm not saying that to insult Dave Filoni, but I've said before, if Tony Gilroy had made Ahsoka, his career might be over. Like, a lot of people would be like, holy shit, Tony. But if Dave had made Andor, people would be like, oh my God, Dave, like, you are a master of your craft. It's because Tony Gilroy is a professional in the film industry and knows what he's doing. And Dave Filoni has really only done the stuff with Star
Right.
Wars. So
It'd be like a rec league basketball player going up to LeBron James and being like, yeah, no, that play doesn't make sense.
oh yeah, trying to give him pointers and stuff. So it's going to be a different dynamic going forward. But I think, like Dave did say, in the way he's worded it, and I think Dave is humble enough to do what he said he's going to do and just be a guide for these new people and just come in and help out. And now that he does have some experience as a filmmaker with live action, he's going to do a movie. He's done TV shows now. He's produced live action, written live action, directed live action. That's going to give him enough experience, specifically with the Star Wars stuff, to tell people like, okay, so like, this is what we did on this project. This is how this worked and all that and the other. So yeah,
And I can see
And
that
can we talk
becoming
about
an
this too?
issue.
Because this is not correct. It's not.
Yeah,
the same.
I just read that. No,
It's
you're
not the
thinking
same.
of
Yeah,
the
no,
role
that-
of executive
it's-
creative. I think that's
it's
what it was.
a different, it's a different,
It's
role.
it's
a
completely
completely
different.
different role.
A different situation. So now that we're coming close to the end of the show, we're gonna do this week in Star Wars Twitter here in a sec. But let's wrap up this topic. Let's wrap up the Dave Filoni thing and kind of give our final thoughts and maybe hopes and expectations and excitement for the future. I will say I'm more excited now for the future of Star Wars than I was even a day or two ago. And I say this a lot, it's a cautious optimism. I'm happy with the decision to put someone in this position and the planning that's going to go ahead in the future. I'm not entirely happy with the person that it is, and that's not me saying I don't want this podcast to make you think that I don't like Dave Filoni. I do like Dave Filoni. I actually love Dave Filoni. I mean, if I ever see him, I'll fanboy out, be like, oh my God, it's Dave Filoni. Like, he is a big deal for us Star Wars fans, and he's always going to have my love and respect for that. But I'm not the biggest fan of his work and what he has done. And this new role just gives me a little bit more caution of, oh my God, like, what are we going to be doing for the future? If it, we always make fun of my member berries thing, but Dave Filoni is the king of member berries. And that, of course, is my cynic side, being like, ah, shit, I don't want more.
Is he
Hey,
going to
remember
throw
this,
that into
remember
the
that?
Ray movie? You know, yeah.
It's anything at all. Like, and I can guarantee almost anytime Member Berries happens in the future, I'm going to blame Dave Filoni. It's going to be a little joke for me and him now. But I'm happy with this news. I'm happy that this is happening. I wish it had been someone different. I wish that, you know, this was something that had been done many years ago, probably with like a John Favreau type, even though I know that's wishful thinking and maybe illogical. But there's a lot to like in this. And if you're not a Dave Filoni fan, and you might even be a hater, there's a lot to dislike in this. And I think this is really going to test everything that Lucasfilm has, because you know, the goal is still these new movies need to hit $1 billion a piece. That's unreasonable, and that's I don't give a fuck. That's the mark that we have set. That is what history has shown. That's what we need. Can this get it to that? I don't know. I really don't know. But can this help? And I think absolutely. So I think this is a right change and a right path for Lucasfilm. I just do think that there still needs to be other creatives and people involved. I think the same complaints I've had with Lucas is applicable to Dave Filoni. Of Lucas, when it came to the original trilogy, thrived because he was the idea guy. He had other people write and direct the movies. He did not thrive in the originals because it was all him. No one wanted to say no to him, and then you got bad movies. I don't want the same thing to happen to Dave Filoni. I don't want Dave Filoni to be this guy who is no longer worthy of collaborating with, because it's his show and that's really it. It needs to be him working with other people, being told no on certain things, and giving good ideas and people executing them properly. So excited for the future, but still very nervous. And I don't think we're out of the red zone for Lucasfilm and Star Wars yet. I still think there's a lot of reason for concern for the future of Star Wars. But in order to hit the old highs that we had, Dave Filoni can and will be a key to that going forward. And it's nice to know that we have someone, you know, taking charge in a way. Lunga, your final thoughts and overall feelings of the situation that
Yeah.
we've talked about.
I mean, with the state of Star Wars that we've had, concern is the word that's going to be on everyone's. There's no way around it. That's just, despite the bluster of me saying, yeah, calling bullshit on you for many things. Of course, I have my concerns too. And I don't think Filoni is fucking Jesus reborn. I'm not saying he's the savior. I am not one of those people. I just think it's a good sign. And what we opened this with, me saying, if not him, there's really not many other people that could do this, that have been involved, not just now, but for an extended period of time, working closely with George Lucas. So, I mean, he has the knowledge. Again, will that translate into stuff we all love? We'll see. But the concern is there. However, I think the positive outlook of this can be good, and it's something that has not been at Lucasfilm, is a huge factor and has a very large impact on them going the way we would like to see it go. With that being said, too, it's like, again, he's not perfect. No one is, right? I don't like everything he's done, you know. But the idea of him being in that office and being with that title does not mean he's writing every little thing. It means he's going to be hiring the right. If Kevin Feige isn't writing shit,
Yeah,
okay, he's
sure.
not. He's writing a storyboard and a plan. That's what he's writing. Okay, he's not writing individual dialogue. Yes, does he veto certain things? Sure, because he's like, that doesn't fit the plan. You know, I mean, he's told his directors. But if you think about it, again, this is assuming he does things the same as Feige. He may not. Okay, but the way Feige did it, you know, was like he said he would say this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this can't happen, that can't happen. Other than that, make your movie. You know what I mean? So that's what I feel it's going to go, and that's what I not going to feel. Oh, it's going to go. Obviously, playing off of what you said about how you hope he doesn't become like George Lucas, where it's like he can't work with anyone. He's proven he can. I mean, he's been there since they were brought in the sequel movies. He was there to watch and to learn.
Yeah.
He's worked with Favreau very well. Okay, and he's worked with other directors very well. So there's been no, or even a hint of anything to think that's a possibility of happening. To him to have that much hubris to think, I run everything. You guys can't tell me no. What I say. There's no. Can it happen to anyone? Yeah. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, right? But there's no hint. There's been no signs to show us that he can go down that road. There's no dark side. We haven't seen. He's not Anakin. I think he's more of an Obi-Wan. So, which we know Obi-Wan made his mistakes, but at the end he did good shit.
Yeah, he did. He did. Palpamemes, final thoughts on Dave Filoni and his new role?
It's a change. It's a change that's been needed for a long time. A lot of damage has been done to the brand. But there is potential with this change. And naturally, when it comes to potential, I look forward to potentially seeing that potential. I think Dave could very well be the guy to do it. I'm on a fine line here between me like yes and no. All right. It potentially is kind of my consensus on this is sure, we'll see. I like Dave Filoni. I think he's best when he is just in a showroom or showrunner room, getting outlines with actual professional writers and stuff. And, he's written some great things, but overall, he's best when his ideas come to fruition and come to light from other people. The biggest question I have, which Lunga kind of brought up already, is will he be able to work with these creators? Because we've seen time and time again that creators cannot work with Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm cannot work with creators. And so why should we believe that Dave Filoni working with these creators is going to suddenly change that? It very well could, right? It very well could, but I'm not too sure at the moment. And so that's why I'm still keeping hold my gates up, right? I'm still keeping myself in line with what's gone on in the past. But in the end, yeah, it was fucking needed. This was needed for so long. It's just a matter of how it's executed. And if it's properly executed,
That's always the case. The execution is everything. And now we have a big change over there at Lucasfilm, and only time will tell what that means for the franchise. And we're going to get evidence of that in not a short time. Like this is going to come out in like 3 to 5 years. We have a little bit of a ways to wait, but it's coming.
I don't understand it. I get another comment. Yes, there should have been his promotion years ago when he first happened. Even before that, when Kathleen Kennedy first took over.
Kathleen took over like very shortly after Lucasfilm was bought out.
She was
working
already,
before the buyout.
Already
her
running
role
shit.
Her role got changed to president after George Lucas left.
Yeah. All right,
and George Lucas kind of pretty much handpicked her, saying this is who he should be. So
he handpicked her not for
literally
president of Lucasfilm.
He gave her he gave her the promotion within Lucasfilm, so she was there for Disney. That was his plan. It was Lucas. There's no way around that. That was
whether he sold
I'm not
Disney or
arguing with
not.
that.
She was going to be the future Star Wars.
Yeah.
With or without Disney buying out, Kathleen Kennedy was the future Star Wars. But we'll see what happens in the future. This was a very big news and big topic on Dave Filoni, and it's probably the biggest news for Star Wars we've gotten since Star Wars Celebration. So this was a good topic and exciting discussion that we have.
It was very fun to talk about. I mean, because we all kind of agree with one another, but we all had different points of views and different concerns. But,
of course.
Can we mention when I was yelling at Only Palpamemes?
Oh, we were all having a meltdown.
Oh, you were playing with your lightsaber.
I was like, all right, let you guys go on for 5 more minutes, get you in the octagon, and then I'll come back when you're done. Give you all 5 rounds.
All right, let's take a look at the upcoming shows on our show calendar. Next week, November 29th, we're going to be doing the legacy of the Star Wars anthology films, Rogue One and Solo: Star Wars Story. December 6th, we're doing the Dawn of the Jedi movie. That's a James Mangold movie, going back to the beginning of the Jedi Order. December 13th, we're going to do a review on Bad Batch Season 2 because we missed that. And then December 20th, we're having the Chatooine Christmas special. So that's the next month of shows that we have to look forward to. So be sure to tune in next Wednesday night, November 29th, for Legacy of the Star Wars anthology films. And now it's time for the ending of the show, where we always end it with the good old This Week from Star Wars Twitter. this week on Star Wars Twitter, Doomcock comes out and says, so
Oh,
Dave
God.
Filoni is now Chief Creative Officer of Lucasfilm. Does that mean Lucasfilm is going to be creative now? Yeah, didn't think so. I saw Ahsoka. If creativity is a disease, Ahsoka was the cure. Meet the new Lucasfilm. Same as the old Lucasfilm. It's funny because there has been good and reactions to the Dave Filoni news, and there's been bad reactions, and this is definitely one of the bad. And it's crazy because a lot of these people you would put in the fandom menace side of the aisle of the Star Wars fandom used to love Dave Filoni, and now it does seem like the tides are turning against Dave, and they're not all that enthusiastic about him. Kind of surprised Doomcock came out with that tweet and disdain for Dave. Another one we got is Chief Honoring Officer Dave Filoni, and it's Dave Filoni talking about honoring classic Star Wars while giving him a reward for Dave Filoni destroying classic Star Wars. I feel like this was a big thing when like Clone Wars was coming out. You guys remember how everyone hated Dave
the
for
EU. Yeah, that's
people.
I don't know. Am I supposed to say something to that? I mean, it's got truth to it, right? Dave Filoni's known for retconning his own stuff now.
Aspect, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's the best part, So I mean, him getting
in-
that creative input now. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see
Maybe
what-
the sequel retcon will finally happen.
Yeah, with the new Ray movie, because he's going to be like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about the movies or the books or anything. We're doing what I want.
That's
third
terrifying.
And last final tweet. Regardless of how you feel about Dave Filoni's work, I, for one, love what he's done so far. It's always been obvious just how much he genuinely loves Star Wars, and that matters. So I'm super excited to see where he takes this franchise. I think that's the biggest and best sentiment that we can all have for this. Of like, he does care. I can complain about his work, but I can't deny that he loves and knows Star Wars better than most. And him working with George Lucas is something to acknowledge and admire about Dave Filoni, and that George had enough faith and trust in him to give him the knowledge about Star Wars that George had, and George's vision and intentions with everything. So
yeah, I mean, he clearly has passion and love. Like the man doesn't want to destroy Star Wars. We can discuss the objective flaws in his writing and stuff, but the man does have love and care for Star Wars.
Mhm.
And so that's why I do say there is potential with this change at Lucasfilm.
I feel like, honestly, with Dave, like, you're never even going to see him leave Lucasfilm. I think that's going to be a company he retires at. Like, I could not imagine him leaving Star Wars to go off and do
His
any
love
other
for Star
project.
Wars, yeah, it goes that far, right? I mean, I feel like it would be like if one of us, or the most hardcore Star Wars fans, got a job at Lucasfilm, they'd be like, I'm never leaving. You
why
want to give me a
would I?
pay raise at Marvel Studios? I don't care. I like working on Star Wars, and
Mhm.
that's something Star Wars has in its speciality compared to other franchises. You don't get that kind of fan base in other franchises. It's very, very rare.
Yeah. And it is wild with Dave, because it's like his love for Star Wars is undying, and it doesn't seem like it's ever going to go anywhere, and it doesn't seem like he's going to leave. But he's here to stay. He is a big part of the future of Star Wars, and we're going to see where that goes and what the future holds for us. So thank you guys for watching today's show. If you liked it, please leave a like on the live stream. Leave a comment once the stream ends. Don't forget to follow us on everything. We got Instagram, we got Twitter, we have a TikTok. All that's in the description below. Click the links in the description below, and you can join us on any of those platforms. I have a lot of big plans for 2024. One thing we will do for anyone watching and wanting to listen through on podcasts or anything like that, next year, starting in January 2024, we are going to be back on podcast, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts. We're coming back to there. So Chatooine's got a big and bright future ahead of us because we have two twin sons. It's kind of hard not to have a bright future. And we're going to be the biggest and best Star Wars podcast out there. Fuck everybody else. I don't know anybody else but us, and we're all that matters. So if you like us, please leave a like. If you're watching on the Star Wars Only channel, subscribe to the official Chatooine Star Wars channel. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week for the Legacy of the Anthology films. May the Force be with you always.
Wow.